When my brother told me he was leaving for Michigan, my first initial reaction was, he leaving me stuck with mom. like, I'm like, that was my first initial reaction. I'm just going to keep it real. I'm like, wow, he just going to leave me stuck with mom. But that was my, should I say, what's the word? Selfish reaction. But my bigger picture reaction was, it's probably a good fit for him. Like, because he probably needs to get away, get away from this place, get away from this environment, this atmosphere, and need a fresh start. So that was I had like two reactions, if that makes sense.
Over time, the fees added up and most people couldn't catch up, therefore couldn't get behind the wheel.
No, baby. Benjamin F.
Nah.
Cunningham. That's who it is.
That apartment.
No. I'm talking about. You trying to say I ain't keep my apartment clean? I know you lied.
You did.
And the truth ain't in you.
You did, but it wasn't like it was.
It wasn't. It was my first apartment, so no, it wasn't like pristine and.
So I'm trying to figure out though,
updated.
what didn't I do? Because I wash the dishes sometimes.
To you, washing the dishes is cleaning up. Like, that's only a part of cleaning up. That's not like, oh, I wash the dishes, the house is clean. No, baby. You gotta vacuum, sweep, mop if necessary, clean the bathrooms. Like, you take out the trash, so I give you that. But, like, it's more to it than washing dishes.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But you're not
well, you're right. It's more
like
to
that.
it. It's more to it than washing dishes. You gotta rinse them. 2012. 2012 was the year that I moved here from Staten Island, New York. The interesting thing about it was I slid into a job opportunity. Okay, I had two interviews. The first interview was an over the phone interview. And that over the phone interview was while I was in New York. We just got hit with Hurricane Sandy. And so while I'm on the phone with the interviewer for this job that I had my sights on down here, I'm driving around my city and I see a whole bunch of businesses that lost their power. I'm seeing a whole bunch of large branches that had fallen off of trees that's blocking the streets. There were a lot of flooded areas. And so I'm riding around trying my best to find good reception so that the call won't drop. And I even think that a few times the call might have dropped and I had to wait for the interviewer to call me back. And but I had already prepared my answers for the questions that I had a feeling that she was going to ask. And I just remember thinking to myself, if this call keeps dropping, it's going to affect my opportunity of moving down here. But thank God, everything went well. The interview went well. And the interviewer, she asked if I would be willing to come down here and for a physical interview. And a few days later, she called me back and she said, are you ready to, come down here for a physical interview? Now, here's the thing. It wasn't a guarantee that I was going to get the job. I just had to be down here for that physical interview. But when she called me back the second time and she asked if I would be willing to come down here for that physical interview, I knew that it was time for me to go. I just knew that I had the job. And sure enough, I came down here, went for that physical interview. They loved me. I got introduced to the other staff members, and that was it. That was all she wrote.
I first met Ben through a mutual friend. He was still living in New York at the time, and he was looking for a place to stay. So this friend knew that I had an extra bedroom in my apartment, and she made the connection. And the first time I talked to him, he prophesied to me. And so I was like, okay, well, at least I know he's a man of God. And so I didn't have a problem with him coming to stay. And even though he came to stay, I didn't really have much interaction with him when he was there because he was moving in with another young man that was living in the apartment. And so I didn't have much interaction with him until I moved back after my divorce.
At the time before I moved here to Michigan, I was dating a young lady from here, and she introduced me to Elsa, and I met Elsa over the phone, and I remember talking to Elsa, and I just began to minister to her, and I remember, I believe from that day forward, she took a liking to me, and it was arranged that once I touched down here and got settled, that I would be able to sublease the apartment that Elsa had, because at the time she was staying with her husband, but she still had the apartment. So me and another young man, we was able to sublease her apartment. And it's interesting because my roommate was dating the roommate of the young lady that I was dating. So I just felt like everything was just flowing. And I knew that it was the will of God with the way that the arrangements were made.
Men live completely different in an apartment than women do. I don't think they ever clean the bathtub because it looked like a construction crew lived in there.
Yeah, two young men staying together definitely was challenging. And it wasn't challenging in the sense of we didn't get along. We got along pretty good. It was just, I think that when young men stay together, you start to see the fruit and the evidence of irresponsibility, the bathtub not getting clean and the dishes being left in the sink. But for the most part, we definitely had a good time. It was a good experience, me and Ryan.
So I remember meeting Ben at Eisenhower Center, a real cool guy. Just remember walking into the cafeteria at the workhouse, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this melodious sound from the piano, and I'm like, man, that's what's up. So I was always looking for producers to work with. And I was like, so, we just vibed off of that, had a really good voice as well. And I was like, so what do you do? You write? Do you record? Do you do things? He was like, yeah, of course. You know, in his own little New York swag, he let me know he do everything. You know what I mean? So, so we really vibed off that, and you know, he invited me over to do some music. We just really had a good time, and yeah, of course, you know, our we found an affinity and a mutual love and honor towards God. So it was like I definitely knew that God was putting us together there.
I remember meeting Ben through a friend that we went to church together. They dated, and she knew I would cut hair, and she wanted him to get a haircut. Being new from New York, this guy was crazy, man. Super funny, charismatic, but I could tell he was genuine.
So I actually met Ben through my husband. He came over one day to get his hair cut, and being the charismatic, bubbly guy that he is, we sparked conversation, kind of gave us a little background, gave me a little background of, you know, who he was, where he was from, and then we actually found that we had music in common. So he would come over, we would kind of vibe a little bit, listen to beats, write music, things of that nature. So he became a very, very close friend after meeting him.
This is where it all started. Ypsilanti, Michigan. Man, I remember when I was unloading my car. Didn't have much. All I had was just a simple suitcase. And when I walked through the door, the apartment was so small you could see everything within a single eye view. In other words, the kitchen, the living room, you could literally see it at first glance in your single eye view. It's not like you go inside of some apartments or you walk inside of a house and the kitchen is at your far left peripheral vision, or the living room is at your far left or right peripheral vision. It's like everything is just right there. It's literally that small. No hallway. And I remember my roommate, his room was on the right side, my room was on the left side. And I was already told before I even arrived to the apartment that my room had a nice bed. Now I'm like, okay, it's a nice bed, it's cool, you know, nice little, you know, what they call it, a single bed or whatever. But when I walked inside of the room, there's this huge king size bed. And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't she take this bed with her? And it was a brand new king size bed. So shout out to Elsa for that. You know, just looking out, man. But I was like a kid in a candy store. Never before that time had I ever slept in a king size bed. So but it was a nice, cozy, very, very, very small apartment. But the welcoming energy was there. You know, she had prepared it for me and my roommate, and it was a beautiful welcoming, that's for sure.
The male room, the roommate that was staying there with Ben was getting married, and he was moving out. And so I decided to move back in And at that point, I found out that the rent was really behind. And I felt like, well, we'll just have to work through it. We'll just have to get it paid. It shouldn't be a big deal. We'll just get it caught up. But one thing about it, Ben was my little brother at that point, and it was something that I was willing to work through because of the mutual love that we had for each other. As little brother and big sis. But there were challenges. There were definite challenges. But the biggest challenge was the rent. And to find out that the reason for the rent was, when he lived in New York, he didn't have to have a car. He didn't have to have car insurance or any of those things. So this is all new to him. And, with a car, you have tags, you have other things with the car that you have to do in order to be able to drive back and forth. So all of those things played a part in the reason that he was not able to pay his rent. But I think the main thing, the main culprit was when he got tickets and he ended up with the driver responsibility fee.
Yeah, so there were times when my job would put me on these annoying assignments where I had to transport the clients who suffer from traumatic brain injuries, might I add. I mean, these were clients who they suffered from a horrific car accident, some kind of blow to the head. We've actually had some NFL players as clients. And so one of my assignments was I had to transport these clients to sometimes recreational outings, family gatherings, home visits, where we would sometimes drop them off. And the commute could range from 30 minutes to 2 hours, sometimes longer than that. And they knew that it was time for me to get off. I had already been dealing with, the behavior issues from these clients. They could yell at you, they could scream, they could yell. Some of them were nice, some of them were pleasant, some of them were a little aggressive. And so when it was time for me to get off work, I'm ready to get off of work. So they would put me on these assignments knowing that I would be back late clocking out, which was accounted for as overtime, but I was ready to go home. So I would drop the client off and it would take me sometimes 2 hours to get back to the base. And so, yes, I was speeding to get back to the base. Never did I speed, with the client in the vehicle, because for one, they're going to tell on you. And secondly, that's just not the right thing to do. But yeah, there were times when I would drop them off and I definitely, was speeding to get back to the base to clock out. And that was really the start in the beginning of me delving deeper into the financial challenges, because getting those tickets, of course, they add up, and it just is something that becomes unbearable.
There were challenges, but Ben had a heart. And, he had a heart to do what was right. And so no matter what challenges or experiences there were, you could always pick up on his heart for the situation or his heart for you. And he wanted to be right with God. And so there was that, you always knew that he was coming from a sincere place.
Although it happened 12 years ago, I still think about what I put Elsa through when she moved back into the apartment and having, gotten out of a divorce, trying to get her life together. And she moved back in after my roommate had got married and moved out. She moved into a situation that she had no control over. I was not, or at some point I got behind with paying my share or my half of the rent. Her name is on the lease, so therefore she moved into that situation because the leasing office, they definitely wanted her to pay that back rent. And I felt bad back then, and one might say, you was heartless to put this woman through that, or you wasn't sincere, or you didn't have a good heart. You was a bad person. You could say whatever you want to say. You could say whatever you want to say. Didn't matter to me then, doesn't matter to me now, because I know for a fact that I had a good heart, and I know that I was sincere, and she could tell you that. But it doesn't negate from the fact that I was irresponsible. And I think that because she knew that I had a good heart and that I was in a situation where I was trying my best, but nothing was working. I think because she knew that, and she knew the core of my heart, that she was merciful towards me, and she allowed me to redeem myself. And I ended up, paying back that back pay, what she owed with the rent. I wanted to do it regardless, but it took me some time to do it. But I think she looked at the bigger picture and the full scope of it, and she allowed me to get myself together. And she treated me like I was that little brother, like, hey, you need to do what you got to do. You need to, she was hard on me in a lot of instances, but I needed it because she could have kicked me out. She could have said, you know what, you got me into this situation and it's time for you to go. And honestly, I don't think I would have had anywhere to go. So that's why I'm grateful to know her, because that was a time in my life where I needed mercy. I needed that. I didn't need nobody telling me. I already knew I was wrong and I tried to get out of it. I just needed somebody to help me. Just be patient with me until I can get this thing together. And that's exactly what she did for me. And I thank God for her.
One thing with dealing with the past, there's always that one person with the magnifying glass. Always want to bring up your history. My history is your mystery. You only need to know one thing. Right now I got victory. Been through a lot, seen a lot. My life, no fantasy.
How does it feel to be home?
How does it feel to be home? It feels good. Staten Island, New York. You got the bridge there. It definitely feels good. I miss it, but not enough to stay. A lot of memories. A big portion of my childhood was here, and the struggles, many of the struggles was here. In fact, we're gonna ride through my old hood. And when I say hood, I mean hood. Not neighborhood. Hood.
My income was like a well. My income was like a well that had very little water inside of that well. And so when it came down to these major responsibilities, which are like buckets that are demanding to be filled on time, it's thoroughly impossible. So I had these major responsibilities. I'm not talking about, Netflix subscriptions and internet and cable. I'm talking about rent, utilities, car note, car insurance. These are major responsibilities. These are things that if you want to have if you want to live comfortably, you have to be able to pay these things on time, monthly, so that you can live comfortably. Now, when it comes down to, groceries and things like that, that's not necessarily a must-have. I mean, that's an option. Groceries don't keep a roof over your head. What keeps a roof over your head is you paying your rent. And for me, I had these major responsibilities that were demanding for an output, but I had a very small income. And so it was like, again, it was like that well that had a small amount of water in that well, but you have these buckets of these major responsibilities that demanded to be filled. And it was thoroughly impossible.
I'm over it, I'm over it, I'm over it, I'm over it.